The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
The High Peak series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles, 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop located at 20 Ropery Road, Gainsborough, or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Welcome back to High Peak again, everybody. Now, there's kind of an unwritten rule in places like this where there's narrow lanes and not a lot of parking. The idea is basically, if you're going to park on the road, leave enough space for a farm vehicle to get past. And I think here I've just about left enough room. These are very, very narrow roads, and they kind of lead to nowhere effectively. That's, of course, if you don't know a bit about the place you're in. I know quite a bit about this place because I've done a bit of research, as I always do. There's some fine buildings in this one, and one of them is behind the camera. We're going to start at that one. This is Aston. Aston, East Farm. Today in High Peak, we're in Aston, a village whose name literally means East Farm. With a tiny population high up in the hills above the much larger Hope, you can both walk and drive through this one in literally a matter of minutes. Much of its attractiveness comes from the countryside around it, but Aston possesses a number of awesome buildings which simply have to be spoken about, even if one of them is totally off limits to us. One of 3 Astons in Derbyshire, together with Thornhill, this one lies in the lee of Win Hill. Both Aston and Thornhill are what historians call discrete settlements, meaning they have no real nucleus, instead consisting of scattered farms and cottages. They are then, by default, the kind of rural settlement which existed prior to the evolution of the modern village after the Norman conquest. Aston is best visited from the A6187 Station Road, just east of the Netherhall Bridge over the River Noe. It contains a number of fine farmhouses, one of which bears the name Kilncroft. The name implies some kind of industrial activity, but it's unlikely to have been pottery because the area is devoid of suitable clay. It's more likely to have been connected to lead smelting. The core of the village is defined by the enormous Aston Hall, which dates back to 1578. Together with the equally impressive Birchfield Lodge, built for Sheffield steel magnate Mark Firth, Aston has some architectural gems. Let's learn about them. We start with Aston Hall in the middle of civilization. You can't really miss this as buildings go. Aston Hall is a 2-storey, 5-bay stone house with an attic and stone stacks. The date 1578 appears on the front, and most of the house dates from that period. Aston Hall is listed Grade 2, and it's a small Elizabethan manor house. It's the centrepiece of the much larger Aston Hall farm. Above the top central window stands a little carved figure of a naked man. There's some dispute as to who that man could be. Could it be the builder, a lead miner, a classical deity perhaps? Nobody really knows. If it's the builder, it'll be opulent lead trader Thomas Borguy. His branch of the Borguy family built this house, but there was a second branch that was responsible for Derwent Hall, 4 miles away to the north. The Aston estate came to the Bournes of Ashover, from whom it descended to another Sheffield family, the Nodders. They let the house to Sheffield ironmasters, the Walkers. Later it was, for several generations, farmed by the Daltons, local farm bailiffs to the Hassop estate, but was later sold to the Shuttleworths of Hathersage. Now, because Aston is a linear village more than a circular village, I've got to follow basically one end of the road to the other. But there is a kind of a circle you can do at its western end if you follow this footpath, and it gives you some fantastic views out into the valley over there, doesn't it? That's brilliant. Let's follow this and get to the other end. It's not that far away. Well, roads-wise, this end of the village is just like the other end, very narrow, only really wide enough for one vehicle. It's also quite dark here as well because it's shrouded in trees. The only reason it looks light on the camera is because the GoPro automatically lightens the image for you when it's in a dark situation. Now, just before we make our way back to where we began, on the corner there's another fine house. We can't access that one though. I'm going to need some pictures for this. Something of an invisible gem, Birchfield Lodge was built as a shooting box for Sheffield steel magnate Mark Firth in 1875. It's a very plain house, giving one the very palest reflection of Jacobean revival, but it once sat in a glorious park, which is now somewhat truncated. Firth embellished the interior of his occasional residence to a high quality, despite mixing classical with Gothic elements. He also embellished the house with a rare blue John window in the porch. That was removed for safekeeping to Buxton Museum in 1983, simplified by the fact that the house was then, and still is, unlisted, so no consents were required. In 1914, Birchfield had been let as Win Hill Holiday Home, before, in the war, becoming a hostel for Sheffield steelworkers. From the 1950s until 1981, it belonged to the Wood Street Mission, later known as the Greater Manchester Youth Association. Today, it's a private home. Also at the western end of the village is an equestrian centre, H.D. Wiliams, who construct both portable and permanent cross-country jumps and courses for events, competitions, schooling centres and private yards. From Aston Hall, you can motor east along Thornhill Lane, which is barely the width of a car and has no passing places. I did that in reverse to get here, and let me tell you, it's not a desirable experience. Okay, made it back to the beginning outside Aston Hall, and thankfully no farm vehicles are trying to get past my car, which is a good thing. However, there is a lorry that's just coming out of the farmyard. I suspect he's going to use this road. I very much doubt he's going left or right, so we better move on, hadn't we? To leave Aston, we head south towards a pub called the Traveller's Rest. In doing so, we pass a small industrial area and a big campsite. The latter is called Hardhurst and offers space for campers and caravans. No doubt this is busy in the summer with all those Peak District walkers around. So to the Traveller's Rest, which has been in the same family ownership since 1997. It's situated at Brough Lane Head, considered to be the centre of the Hope Valley. Shortly after the millennium, the pub was rebuilt over a 2-year period. The pub is open every day of the week, with bar meals served day and night. It has a large free car park, a huge beautifully laid out garden with seating and a children's play area. If the campsite isn't your idea of accommodation, you can always stay at the Travellers. Appropriate given the name, right? It has 6 bedrooms. There is another place you can stay out here too. And that would be Thorndene. This is a B&B which was established in 2010. It's located about 1 kilometre outside of Hope, and it's about the same distance from Bradwell too. This too has free and private off-street parking, and it also has secure bicycle storage. We're now right on the boundary between the White Peak and the Dark Peak. Let's continue westwards into our next village, one which many Peak District walkers, cyclists and visitors will know very, very well. See you tomorrow. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.